After the Reddit user vanished, a few people who had saved the corrupted scan of the photograph decided to create a private Discord server to investigate it together. They believed if they could enhance and stabilize the image, they might discover what was truly hidden in the shadows. One member, a college student studying digital forensics, ran the scan through multiple filters to pull out hidden layers. Late one night, she messaged the group. "There's another figure. Behind the girl, in the dark, something tall, almost touching the ceiling. And there's text, more than we thought." She uploaded the enhanced image to the server, but those who downloaded it reported that their computers crashed immediately, and when restarted, the desktop background had changed to a low-resolution version of the photo, timestamped exactly 3:07. Some members began to share that they were waking up at 3:07 a.m., sometimes to the sound of water dripping, sometimes to the creaking of floorboards as if small, wet feet were walking across their rooms. A few reported seeing a small shape in the dark corners of their rooms, a little girl in a soaked black dress, holding crushed flowers, the smell of rotting petals spreading across the room. One member's last message was, "She's in the photo, but she's moving closer every time I look. Her head is lifting." He stopped posting. Another member said she heard whispering through her headphones while editing the image, a voice layered under the noise, repeating, "Mommy. Mommy. Mommy." The group eventually shut down the server after one of them claimed that during a voice call, they all heard a third voice, quiet but clear, saying, "I see you." After that, the ones who had downloaded the photo said it could not be deleted. No matter how many times they wiped their drives, reinstalled systems, or changed devices, the photo would reappear. Sometimes in random folders, sometimes as the lock screen image, sometimes in printouts from their disconnected printers. And the same pattern continued. The heavy, sweet rotting scent of flowers. The 3:07 a.m. disturbances. Wet footprints near beds, computers, or doorways. The faint child's voice whispering, "Mommy." And sometimes, a deeper, echoing whisper that follows, "She's here." No one knows who originally took the photograph. Some believe it's tied to an unsolved case of missing children, others think it's a curse attached to the abandoned house where it was found. But those who have seen it, touched it, or even glimpsed it digitally agree on one thing. Once you see her, it's too late. A small paranormal YouTube channel decided to cover the story of the photograph after seeing the Reddit threads. They managed to get a copy of the corrupted scan and included it briefly in their video, claiming it was just creepy internet lore. The video was uploaded at 3:07 a.m. by accident due to a scheduling glitch. That's when viewers started leaving strange comments. "Why does my room smell like flowers now? I heard something whispering while I watched. Did anyone else see the face move at 2:14 in the video? There were wet footprints on my kitchen floor this morning." The channel's host, who lived alone, recorded an update video 2 days later, visibly shaken. He claimed that the night after uploading, he woke up gasping for air, the scent of rotting flowers so strong it made him dizzy. He heard slow, wet footsteps coming down the hallway toward his room. When he looked, he saw a small shape standing in the dark, head lowered, water dripping onto the floor. It didn't move at first. Then its head started to lift, slowly, and he saw that black void where the face should be, the darkness swallowing up all the light in the room. He ended the video saying, "Please, if you saw the photo in my last video, delete it. Don't look at it again. Don't share it. I don't think it's just a story. She's real." That was the last video he posted. His channel has been inactive ever since. Viewers who watched the video reported the same repeating pattern. Waking up at 3:07 a.m. Smelling rotting, damp flowers in their rooms. Hearing soft, wet footsteps approaching. Seeing small, dark, dripping footprints on floors. Hearing a child's whisper, "Mommy." A few reported hearing an additional voice, deeper and distorted, whispering, "She sees you now." The video was eventually taken down after mass reports, but some claim fragments of it still circulate on obscure video sites and forums, sometimes under random file names like 307.mov or mommywake.mp4. And those who stumble across these fragments often report the same result: once you've seen her, it doesn't matter if you believe or not. She knows you saw her. And she will find you. After the video was removed, a tech blogger decided to investigate, claiming he could debunk the photo curse as mass hysteria. He found a downloaded clip from the video and used frame-by-frame analysis to prove there was no moving face, no hidden figure. He published an article at exactly 3:07 a.m., mocking the legend. 3 days later, his blog went offline without explanation. Other bloggers claimed they received an email from him before his disappearance, containing only one sentence. It moved. No one heard from him again. A user on a small private forum shared that before the blog went down, they saved the enhanced frame he posted. They noticed that in the background, near the top left corner, a faint outline of a tall, thin figure was visible behind the children, a darkness almost like smoke, with long, bony hands barely visible around the girl's shoulders. Those who viewed the enhanced frame reported the same symptoms. A heavy, rotting flower scent in their rooms. 3:07 a.m. waking. Wet footprints near their beds or computer desks. Seeing a small figure in the dark, head down, dripping water. One user claimed that during a late-night gaming session, his monitor flickered, and for a split second, the photograph appeared on screen with a faint whisper from his headphones. "Mommy." After that, he would see flashes of her in reflections, in darkened windows, in the turned-off TV, in puddles on the street. Always the same shape, small and still, with the black void for a face, holding crushed, dripping flowers. A few days later, he posted a final message on the forum. "She was at the end of my bed last night. She lifted her head." That was the last anyone heard from him. In a small Discord chat, a user shared that he found an archived copy of the blogger's last draft, the one he never posted. It was a single paragraph. "I watched it in slow motion. Frame by frame. I thought I was seeing compression glitches, but it wasn't. The head moves. The shoulders shift. In one frame, I think she looks at the camera. My room smells like funeral flowers now, and I can hear her. Last night, I woke up at 3:07, and she was standing in the corner. She's waiting." The user who found and shared this was offline the next day, his profile status permanently stuck on online, but he never typed again. Another forum member, a self-proclaimed skeptic, decided to test it by projecting the photo onto a blank wall in his room at 3:07 a.m., live streaming the process. For the first few minutes, nothing happened, and he laughed, mocking the viewers in chat. Then, viewers began to notice it first. "Is your camera glitching? What's that in the lower left corner? Bro, turn around." The streamer stopped laughing when he froze, staring at something off-screen. The chat exploded with messages as a faint child's voice, barely audible, whispered through the stream. "Mommy." The camera fell, the stream cut to static, and the channel was terminated hours later for violating community guidelines. Clips of the stream were re-uploaded by others, but those who watched them claimed their rooms smelled of rotting flowers, and some heard a child's voice from their headphones, saying, "I see you." Several who saved the clip said it reappeared in their phone galleries even after deletion, and in one case, a user claimed their phone alarm went off by itself at 3:07 a.m., displaying a black screen with a single line of white text. "She sees you." After these incidents, the file was dubbed "the video that follows," and many who had downloaded it began reporting the same patterns. The heavy floral scent. Wet footprints near beds or desks. Shadows moving in reflections. The 3:07 a.m. awakenings. The whisper, "Mommy." And always, the growing fear that she is moving closer each night, lifting her head slowly, revealing the void where her face should be. After the streamer's disappearance, a small encrypted Telegram group formed, dedicated to sharing theories and evidence about the photograph and the video that follows. Members posted screenshots of the file's properties showing impossible details, like timestamps all set to 3 hours and 7 minutes no matter the time zone. File sizes stuck at 3.07 megabytes despite compression or editing attempts. GPS metadata pointing to abandoned locations, including the burned-out house in Pennsylvania. One member, a systems engineer, claimed he tried to open the corrupted video file frame by frame to find the exact moment the whisper is heard. On frame 1843, he noticed something in the background, behind the children. A tall, thin shadow, extending from floor to ceiling, with elongated hands resting gently on the girl's shoulders, the fingers impossibly long. He posted, "When I zoomed in, it felt like it was looking back. The screen flickered, and I smelled it, like dead roses, wet earth." That night, he set up a camera to record himself sleeping, determined to catch evidence. At 3:07 a.m., the camera shut off. The last frame captured before corruption showed the engineer asleep in bed, and at the foot of the bed, a small figure standing, head down, water dripping onto the floor. After that, he went silent in the group. Other members began reporting identical experiences. Their alarms going off at 3:07 a.m. without being set. A suffocating, sweet-rotting flower scent flooding their rooms. Small, wet footprints appearing on floors, sometimes leading from their beds to windows or mirrors. Seeing the shape of a small girl in dark reflections, head down, holding something that drips. One member recorded audio of the whisper and enhanced it. A deeper, distorted voice could be heard layered beneath the child's. "She's almost here." Members began leaving the group out of fear, deleting the files and destroying devices, but the pattern never stopped. One wrote before deleting his account, "I closed everything. Threw away my computer. I don't even own a phone now. But I still wake up at 3:07. She's closer. Every night, she lifts her head a little more." Now, across forums and Discord servers, whispers circulate that the photograph isn't just cursed, it's hungry. That it needs to be seen, shared, spread to others to move closer, to step further into our world. They say, if you see her, she sees you. If you share her, she follows you. If you hear her, it's too late. And once you have seen the photograph, even for a second, she never forgets. A user on a private paranormal research forum shared that he had tracked down the burned Pennsylvania house's address, determined to visit and debunk the photograph's legend. He posted updates as he approached the crumbling structure, describing the air as heavy and damp, with a faint floral rot clinging to the wind even before he reached the property. Inside, the house was silent except for the creaks of rotting floorboards. He described the smell as funeral flowers left in rainwater, intensifying as he approached the basement door. He descended, finding the air colder, the smell stronger. At the bottom, he found a charred section of wall with deep scratches across the burned wood, as if small hands had tried to claw out. In the center, he found a single, rotting flower resting on the ashes, wet petals darkening the floor beneath it. In his final post, he uploaded a photo of the scene, noting, "It's here. The smell is so strong I can barely breathe. I think I heard her behind me." The photo he uploaded showed a blurry shape in the corner of the basement, small, with a dark dress, head lowered, water stains leading from her feet toward the camera. That was his last post. Members who viewed the photo reported the same symptoms. The scent of rotting flowers in their rooms. Waking at exactly 3:07 a.m. Wet footprints near their beds. A soft, trembling child's voice whispering, "Mommy." Some reported an additional detail, shadows in their reflections, barely visible behind them, and the sensation that someone was standing directly behind them, just out of view, in the darkness. A few days later, a new post appeared under the vanished user's account, but with no author tag. It was a single sentence. She lifted her head. Attached was a corrupted image file, displaying only blackness, with a faint, distorted voice when opened whispering. "She sees you now." Now, within private circles, a theory is growing. The photograph, the whisper, the smell, are all signs of her approaching. Each time you see, hear, or smell them, she moves a little closer. They say. She begins with the scent. Then she comes in your dreams at 3:07 a.m. Then you see the wet footprints. Then she appears in the corner of your room, head lowered. Then, one night, she lifts her head. And once you see what is under that darkness, you do not wake up. A small group of paranormal archivists decided to preserve all data related to the photograph, convinced it was a modern cursed object worth studying. They built an encrypted cloud to store every known version of the image, every video snippet, every audio file of the whispers. But within days, members began reporting the same pattern. Headaches worsening at night. A sudden, cloying scent of rotting flowers at random times. Devices turning on by themselves at 3:07 a.m. displaying the photo. Wet footprints appearing near their desks. One member, a former skeptic, documented in a voice note. "I'm not sleeping. Every night I hear her. She's pacing near my bed. The floor is wet. I don't know if I'm awake or dreaming anymore. I saw her last night. She lifted her head." Another archivist set up a camera to record himself sleeping to capture proof. The footage showed him tossing and turning, the clock on the nightstand flipping to 3:07 a.m. The video glitches, and for a single frame, the small, soaked figure appears at the foot of the bed, head down, water dripping, the darkness of her face turned toward the camera. After viewing the footage, he tried to post it, but the file corrupted, replacing the video with a black screen and a single whispered word. "Mommy." A day later, he was found unresponsive in his apartment, eyes open, clutching a printed copy of the photograph, the air thick with the scent of wet, decaying flowers. The group disbanded. Those who tried to wipe the archives found the files reappearing, sometimes renamed. 3:07am.jpg. mommycalling.mp4. sheseesyou.txt, a text file containing only the phrase, "She is almost here," repeated thousands of times. Even after destroying hard drives, members reported seeing her in reflective surfaces, turned-off monitors, dark windows at night, bathroom mirrors. She would stand there, head lowered, closer each time, the scent flooding the air. And some said that when she finally lifts her head, she brings the darkness with her, and those who see it vanish, leaving behind only wet footprints leading to the bed. A rotting flower on the pillow. The faint scent of funeral flowers in a silent room. They say now. If you see the photograph, she sees you. If you hear the whisper, she is near you. If you smell the flowers, she is in the room. If she lifts her head, it is over. A small group of paranormal archivists decided to preserve all data related to the photograph, convinced it was a modern cursed object worth studying. They built an encrypted cloud to store every known version of the image, every video snippet, every audio file of the whispers. But within days, members began reporting the same pattern. Headaches worsening at night. A sudden, cloying scent of rotting flowers at random times. Devices turning on by themselves at 3:07 a.m. displaying the photo. Wet footprints appearing near their desks. One member, a former skeptic, documented in a voice note. "I'm not sleeping. Every night I hear her. She's pacing near my bed. The floor is wet. I don't know if I'm awake or dreaming anymore. I saw her last night. She lifted her head." Another archivist set up a camera to record himself sleeping to capture proof. The footage showed him tossing and turning, the clock on the nightstand flipping to 3:07 a.m. The video glitches, and for a single frame, the small, soaked figure appears at the foot of the bed, head down, water dripping, the darkness of her face turned toward the camera. After viewing the footage, he tried to post it, but the file corrupted, replacing the video with a black screen and a single whispered word. "Mommy." A day later, he was found unresponsive in his apartment, eyes open, clutching a printed copy of the photograph, the air thick with the scent of wet, decaying flowers. The group disbanded. Those who tried to wipe the archives found the files reappearing, sometimes renamed 3:07am.jpg, mommycalling.mp4, sheseesyou.txt, a text file containing only the phrase, "She is almost here," repeated thousands of times. Even after destroying hard drives, members reported seeing her in reflective surfaces, turned-off monitors, dark windows at night, bathroom mirrors. She would stand there, head lowered, closer each time, the scent flooding the air. And some said that when she finally lifts her head, she brings the darkness with her, and those who see it vanish, leaving behind only wet footprints leading to the bed. A rotting flower on the pillow. The faint scent of funeral flowers in a silent room. They say now. If you see the photograph, she sees you. If you hear the whisper, she is near you. If you smell the flowers, she is in the room. If she lifts her head, it is over. They say this photo ended up in the hands of a boy who entered an abandoned house in a small village. No one really knows who the children in the photo are, but everyone who has looked at it claims the same thing. They felt like the air got heavy, it became hard to breathe, and a sharp, rotting flower scent filled the room. The photo shows two children, a girl in a dark dress with nothing but a black, endless void where her face should be, and a boy standing next to her, glassy-eyed, clutching wilted flowers in his small hand. The photo was found in a rusted metal box in the basement, wrapped in an old cloth. The boy who found it later said strange things started happening with his phone. At night, while it was charging, the phone would turn on by itself, recording video in the dark. In one of those videos, you could hear a wet, choking sound, like a child trying to call out underwater. "Mommy." And for a split second, the camera caught a small figure standing in the corner, wearing what looked exactly like the same dark dress from the photo. Neighbors said that years ago, a child went missing in that house. Her mother would walk from room to room for days, claiming she could smell rotting flowers at night, the same night the child disappeared. Some even said she started hearing her daughter's voice calling from the walls, always saying the same word. "Mommy." The strangest part? Everyone who has looked at that photo says they had the same dream that night, a girl in a black dress, with no face, standing next to their bed in the dark, holding crushed flowers, moving closer with every breath, the heavy scent of decay getting stronger until they woke up, gasping for air. If you want to continue in this style, reply, "Continue," and I will immediately generate the next part in the same realistic, documentary horror tone, building tension while keeping it believable, until you say, "Stop." People on forums have tried to analyze the photo, zooming in on the edges, trying to find out where it came from. Some say if you brighten the image, you can see something in the background, a crooked picture frame on the wall, tilted to the side, with a blurry shape that looks like another face watching from behind. One guy said he printed the photo to prove it was fake. He hung it in his room as a joke. That same night, he woke up at 3:07 a.m. to the sound of soft footsteps on the floor, but no one else was home. He said the air smelled like old, wet flowers, the kind you find on graves after a heavy rain. His phone screen turned on by itself, and in the reflection, he saw a small figure standing behind him, just for a moment, before the screen went black. He tore the photo off the wall and tried to burn it. It wouldn't catch fire. The edges turned dark, but the image stayed clear, the children's outline somehow even darker in the flickering flame. He threw it outside that night. The next morning, it was back on his kitchen table, still cold to the touch, smelling faintly of damp earth and dead petals. There's a theory that the photo was taken moments before something happened to those children, that the black void on the girl's face is not an error, but a record of what took her. Some believe the boy in the photo is still alive somewhere, unable to speak, clutching the same dead flowers, waiting for someone to recognize him. People who have seen the photo often report strange dreams for weeks, the girl with no face standing at the foot of their bed, the smell of rotting flowers filling the room, the soft rustling of dried petals moving across the floor, and the voice of a child whispering, "Mommy." And every time, they wake up at exactly 3:07 a.m. A user on an old paranormal forum once shared that his cousin found the same photo in a thrift shop, tucked inside the back of a dusty frame. They didn't know about the rumors. They just thought it looked weird, and brought it home. The first night, nothing happened. The second night, they both woke up to scratching sounds inside the walls. At first, they thought it was mice, but the scratching was slow, deliberate, like fingernails dragging along the inside of the drywall. At exactly 3:07 a.m., the scratching stopped, and the house became dead silent. On the third night, they smelled it, the sharp, heavy scent of wilted flowers, like old funeral arrangements left to rot. The air felt thick, as if the entire room was pressing down on their chests. The cousin said he woke up unable to move, lying in bed, eyes open, watching the dark corner near his closet. In the faint glow from the streetlight, he saw her. A small girl in a black dress. Her head was tilted down, her hair covering where her face should have been. She was holding something in her hand, something that looked like crushed flowers, dripping water onto the floor. And then she moved. It was a single, jerking step toward the bed, her wet shoes leaving small, dark prints on the wooden floor. The cousin tried to scream, but no sound came out. She raised her head, and where her face should have been, there was only darkness, like a deep hole swallowing all the light in the room. He passed out. The next morning, the photo was gone. In its place, on the table, was a single, rotting flower. People online argue if the story is true, but one thing they all agree on, everyone who has come across the photograph, or even a copy of it, eventually sees her, smells the rotting flowers, and wakes up at 3:07 a.m. to find wet footprints on the floor near their bed. And sometimes, if they listen carefully, they hear a faint, trembling voice whisper, "Mommy." A former local sheriff anonymously shared online that, back in the early 90s, a call came in from that same abandoned house. No one was supposed to live there, but the call was logged, a child's voice repeating, "Mommy, Mommy," over and over, until the line cut. When deputies arrived, the house was empty, layers of dust and fallen plaster covering the floor. But in the living room, they found small, wet footprints leading in circles, stopping in front of the fireplace where a single, rotting flower lay on the cold bricks. They checked the phone line. It was disconnected years before. Another investigator found an old case file from decades earlier, a woman who reported her daughter missing, insisting she could still hear her calling from inside the walls of the house, always at 3:07 a.m., with the smell of rotting flowers in the air. The file said the mother eventually disappeared, too, leaving the house abandoned with plates still set on the table. Local teens who broke in on dares claimed they saw a small figure in the corner of the basement, standing in the dark, unmoving, facing the wall. Some of them took photos, and in the background of each photo, even if the room was empty, there would be a faint, shadowy outline of a child in a dark dress, holding what looked like crushed flowers. Every time someone tried to burn or throw away the photograph, it came back, slipped under their door, left on the windshield of their car, or sitting on their bed when they returned home. Some claimed they started to smell the flowers at work or school, even outdoors, following them like a curse. And every time, the same pattern. The smell. The 3:07 a.m. wake-ups. The soft, wet footsteps. The whisper. "Mommy." People say it's just a local ghost story, but those who have seen the photo, smelled the flowers, and woke up to find wet footprints by their bed, all agree, it's not just a story. A local journalist once tried to investigate the origins of the photo, planning to debunk the story for a Halloween article. She tracked down a relative of the family who once lived in that house. The old man, who was in a care home, refused to speak at first. When she finally showed him a copy of the photograph, his hands began to shake so violently that he dropped it. All he said was, "It followed us." He refused to explain further. Later, the journalist checked herself into a motel to finish the story. She called her editor at 2:45 a.m., whispering, terrified, saying she could smell flowers and that someone was standing outside her door. She said she heard small, wet footsteps pacing back and forth, and a child's voice saying, "Mommy," over and over again, but softer each time, as if it was getting closer. The call ended. She was found the next morning, sitting on the floor against the door, clutching the photograph, her eyes open, unblinking, in complete shock. She never spoke again. In online archives, there's a grainy audio clip supposedly from her last voicemail to a friend. You can hear her breathing heavily, the phone rustling, and then, faintly, the sound of water dripping and a child's soft voice, almost a gurgle. "Mommy." There are theories that the photograph captures the last moment before the girl disappeared, that the black void on her face is where she was taken. Others believe the boy in the photo is the one calling for his mother, trapped in the house, unable to leave, carrying the scent of rotting flowers wherever the photo appears. Some people have tried to destroy every copy of the photograph, but it keeps resurfacing online, blurry screenshots, digital scans, even AI enhancements that only reveal more disturbing details in the shadows. And still, the pattern never changes. The scent of rotting flowers. The 3:07 a.m. wake-up. Wet footprints. The whisper, "Mommy." And if you've seen the photo, they say you're already part of the story, whether you believe it or not. In an old subreddit thread, a user claimed they tried to track the metadata of a digital scan of the photograph, hoping to trace its origin. Instead, they found that the file's timestamp was always the same, no matter how many times it was uploaded or resaved, 3:07 a.m. They said their computer froze each time they tried to delete the file, and at exactly 3:07 a.m., the speakers crackled and played a faint, wet sound, like water dripping onto old wood, followed by a soft child's voice whispering, "Mommy." After that, they started seeing the figure from the photo in reflections, in the darkened screen of their laptop, in windows at night, even in puddles on the street. Always a small, still figure in a black dress, head lowered, holding crushed flowers, the faint outline of a face completely black, like an empty pit. Another user replied, claiming their cousin, who had taken a printed copy as a joke to a party, fell violently ill that night, reporting a strong smell of rotting flowers in her room. She told her parents she saw a small girl standing at the foot of her bed, dripping water onto the floor, staring with a face that wasn't there. She was found the next morning, unresponsive, clutching the photo, her fingernails broken as if she had been scratching the floor. They burned the photograph in the fireplace, but the next morning, a fresh, rotting flower was on the kitchen counter, dripping dark water, leaving stains they couldn't wash out. The pattern was undeniable. A copy of the photograph surfaces. A heavy scent of rotting flowers fills the air. 3:07 a.m. wake-ups begin. Wet footprints appear on floors, in hallways, or next to beds. A whisper, always the same, "Mommy." And if they tried to get rid of the photo, it returned. In the mail, under doors, on their phone gallery, or simply appearing on a screen without explanation, with the timestamp stuck at 3:07 a.m. Most chilling of all, someone once recorded the whisper clearly, and when the audio was enhanced, a second voice could be heard behind the child's, whispering in a deeper, gurgling tone. "She's here." A retired paramedic shared anonymously that years ago, he was called to that abandoned house for what was reported as a squatter collapse. When he and his partner arrived, the front door was open, cold air rushing out, carrying the thick, sweet stale scent of rotting flowers. Inside, they found a young man collapsed on the floor, clutching an old black and white photograph in one hand, his fingernails torn and bloody as if he had tried to claw through the wooden floor. The paramedic said the man's eyes were open, darting around the room, but he couldn't speak, only making faint choking sounds. As they lifted him onto the stretcher, the man suddenly gasped and whispered, "Don't let her see you." Then he passed out. The paramedic said that as they rolled him out, he felt something cold brush against his leg. He glanced down and, just for a split second, saw a small, wet footprint on the dusty floor, right next to his boot. After the call, the paramedic couldn't get the scent out of his nose. It followed him to the ambulance, to his locker, even home. That night, he woke up gasping for air, the clock reading exactly 3:07 a.m. At the foot of his bed, he saw a small shape standing in the dark, dripping water onto the carpet, holding what looked like dead, crushed flowers. The shape raised its head, and though the room was nearly pitch dark, he saw it clearly, a black hole where a face should have been, a darkness that seemed to swallow up every sound in the room. A child's voice, impossibly close, whispered, "Mommy." And then, just as suddenly, it was gone, leaving only the smell of rotting flowers and a small, wet footprint on the floor. The paramedic quit his job a week later and moved states, but he claims the smell still returns sometimes, especially if he wakes up at 3:07 a.m. He has never spoken publicly about what happened, but in a private message, he wrote, "I don't know what that photo is, but it's real. It's not a story. If you ever see it, don't keep it. Don't look at it too long. Don't let her see you." On a small paranormal podcast, a caller once claimed that her brother found the photograph on an old USB drive left behind in a college dorm room. At first, they thought it was a joke, a creepy photo someone used for a prank. They opened it on his laptop, stared at the grainy black and white image of the two children, the boy with the glassy stare, the girl in the black dress with that darkness where her face should be. That night, her brother woke her up, banging on her door, panicking. He said he smelled something rotting, sweet and heavy, and heard soft footsteps in the hallway, even though no one else was awake. She told him to calm down, but when she stepped into the hallway, she smelled it too. They checked every room, but nothing was there. Just before 3:07 a.m., the laptop in his room turned on by itself, displaying the photo again, full screen. The speakers crackled, and a faint, wet whisper came through. "Mommy." She swore she saw something move in the reflection on the laptop screen, a small shape, standing in the corner behind them, head down, dripping dark water onto the floor. The next morning, there were wet footprints leading from her brother's room to the front door. They tried to delete the photo, but every time they did, it reappeared, sometimes named 3_07.jpg or simply mommy.jpg. Her brother became obsessed, trying to trace the photo's origin. He stopped sleeping, terrified of what he would see if he closed his eyes. One night, she heard him screaming, and when she ran to his room, he was curled in the corner, staring at the blank wall, eyes wide, repeating, "She's here, she's here, she's here." The photograph was open on his laptop, but this time, there was something new. In the background, behind the children, a faint, shadowy adult figure had appeared, taller, standing in the darkness, with a face that was nothing but blackness, as if the darkness was spreading beyond the girl. After that, her brother was never the same. He wouldn't speak, and sometimes, in the middle of the night, she would find him standing in the hallway, staring at nothing, whispering, "Mommy." The photo was eventually deleted, but every year, on the same date they found it, her phone alarm goes off at exactly 3:07 a.m. with no alarm set. She wakes up, and for a brief moment, the scent of rotting flowers fills the room. And in the silence, she swears she hears soft, wet footsteps moving just outside her bedroom door. A Reddit user once posted that he had tracked the supposed origin of the photograph to a box of estate sale items from a house in rural Pennsylvania. The house had been abandoned after a fire decades ago, but some belongings survived, including a stack of black and white photos wrapped in wax paper. Among them was that photograph. The user claimed he bought the box to resell vintage items but felt drawn to the photo, staring at it late at night, trying to see what others said they saw in the background. He said he didn't believe in curses, but on the first night, around 3:07 a.m., he woke up with the heavy, suffocating scent of rotting flowers in his bedroom, so thick he almost vomited. When he looked toward his closet, he saw a small, dark shape standing there, head lowered, water dripping onto the floor. It was gone in a blink, but when he turned on the light, a single wet footprint remained on the wooden floor, leading toward his bed. He tried to post a high-res scan of the photo, but the file kept corrupting. Every upload attempt would freeze at 3.07 megabytes before crashing. He wrote that while analyzing the scan, he noticed tiny letters scratched into the lower corner of the photo, letters he had never seen before, spelling out, "She sees you." After posting this, the user's account went silent. Another Redditor later claimed to have spoken to him through DMs. The last message he sent was, "She's in the photo, but she's also outside of it now. I can hear her in the walls at night. Don't look too long." When someone from the subreddit tried to check on him, they reported his apartment door was left ajar. The place was empty, but on the kitchen counter was a single, rotting flower, dark water pooling beneath it, and the photo, now stained and warped, still cold to the touch. Neighbors later told police they heard faint crying from his apartment at 3:07 a.m. for several nights before he disappeared, a child's voice softly calling out, "Mommy." No one knows what happened to him. And since that post, others who downloaded the partial scan of the photograph reported the same scent, the same 3:07 a.m. disturbances, and the same soft, wet footsteps approaching in the dark. A cybersecurity researcher specializing in tracking digital anomalies took on the case of the photograph, determined to trace its true origin. He believed it was malware, a visual curse engineered to spread fear, exploiting human psychology. He created an isolated virtual environment and opened the highest resolution scan of the photo available. As the grayscale image loaded, his system clock flickered and reset to 3 hours and 7 minutes, regardless of his settings. He described the moment in his encrypted notes. As soon as the photo opened fully, it was like the air shifted. The scent, flowers, but wrong, wet and decaying. It felt like someone was standing behind me, breathing softly. Using layered spectral analysis on the audio clips associated with the photo, he discovered hidden frequencies, just under the threshold of normal hearing, where the whispers repeated. "She sees you. She is here. Mommy." He documented how the image file size kept resetting to 3.7 megabytes, no matter what he tried to alter. Metadata analysis led him to a set of GPS coordinates, the site of the burned-down Pennsylvania house. He planned to visit but was found unresponsive in his office before he could leave. His screensaver displayed the photograph in grayscale, and in the lower corner of the screen, logs showed a final typed message. She lifted her head. Those who viewed screenshots of his system later reported the smell of rotting flowers lingering in their workspace. Screens flickering at 3:07 a.m. Seeing fleeting reflections of a small, dripping figure in their monitors. Hearing a soft voice near their ear in the dark, whispering, "Mommy." In hidden chat rooms, survivors of these encounters shared unspoken rules that were forming. Never open the photo alone at 3:07 a.m. Never view it on reflective screens in the dark. Never stare into her darkness if she lifts her head. Because some believe the darkness under her lifted head is not just a void, but a passage, pulling you in if you lock eyes with it. They say those who do are found hours later, lifeless, with a look of terror frozen on their faces, a single rotting flower placed near their body, and wet footprints leading away into nothing. Now, the photograph is whispered about as the modern curse. You don't need to believe in it for it to find you. You don't need to share it for it to follow you. Once you see her, she is patient, moving closer each 3:07 a.m., drip by drip, step by step. Until the night she lifts her head. And you see what she really is. In a hidden signal group, a small circle of IT specialists, archivists, and paranormal rationalists attempted to permanently wipe every trace of the photograph from the internet. They called it Project 307, believing if they could erase every copy, the reports would stop. They tracked the file across forums, torrents, ghost sites, and even dark web marketplaces, systematically destroying servers and hard drives holding the image. For a while, it worked. Reports slowed. The smell report stopped. The 3:07 a.m. disturbances quieted. But one night, at exactly 3:07 a.m., every member of Project 307 received the same anonymous message. You saw her. The next morning, 2 members were found dead in their homes, doors locked from the inside. Their rooms smelled of rotting flowers, puddles of dark water spread beneath their beds, and a single, black and white photo lay beside each body, cold and wet, showing the girl, head lifted. For those who found them, they described the faces of the dead as frozen in a look of absolute terror, eyes wide open, as if seeing something so dark it burned into them forever. Surviving members tried to isolate themselves, going offline, destroying devices, living without screens, mirrors, or reflective surfaces. Yet the reports continued. Soft, wet footsteps on wood floors at 3:07 a.m. The thick, damp scent of rotting funeral flowers. Whispers of "mommy" from dark corners. Brief glimpses of a small, soaked figure in the corners of candlelight. One final message appeared in the signal group from a member who had sworn to never open the photo again. I don't know how, but I saw her in a puddle outside. She was standing across the street in the rain, dripping, head down. She started to lift it. It's like the darkness moved, not her. There was something in that darkness, eyes inside it. She lifted her head. The message was timestamped 3:07 a.m. Now, in the deepest forums, those who truly understand the photograph know. It does not need the internet to travel. It does not need a screen to be seen. It only needs you to look for it, even once. They say the darkness under her lifted head is not empty but alive, a portal that feeds on the moment you lock eyes with her. The darkness follows you afterward, in shadows, in reflections, in the flicker of light as you close your eyes. And if you smell the flowers tonight, and your clock reads 3:07 a.m., it may already be too late. After the collapse of Project 307, survivors began to notice the photograph no longer needed to appear on their devices. It began showing up in dreams. A former skeptic, who had avoided looking at any copy for months, reported that he dreamed of standing in a hallway flooded with shallow, dark water. The air smelled of wet, rotting flowers, heavy enough to taste. At the end of the hallway, in the flickering light, she was there. Small, soaked, black dress clinging to her thin frame, her head hanging low, water dripping into the darkness around her feet. He said he tried to turn around, but in the dream, he couldn't move. He could only watch as she slowly started to lift her head, darkness rolling off her like smoke. He woke up screaming at 3:07 a.m., the smell of rotting flowers thick in his bedroom. At the foot of his bed, he found wet footprints leading to his pillow, and there, a single crushed flower lay, dripping dark water into his sheets. Others who had once seen the photo began reporting identical dreams. Standing in dark hallways or empty streets flooded with water. Smelling the suffocating scent of decay. Seeing her, head down, slowly lifting. And each time they woke, it was always 3:07 a.m. One user posted on a hidden forum. I tried to stay awake to avoid the dream, but I fell asleep at my desk. I saw her again. She lifted her head higher this time. I saw something in the darkness under her face. Eyes, like mirrors, reflecting me. I felt pulled in. That was their last post. A psychologist investigating these cases called it, the contagion of the image. He theorized that the photograph acts like a viral meme, embedding itself in the subconscious, spreading not through screens alone but through memory and fear. In his last recorded session notes, the psychologist wrote, "I have never seen the image, but I have heard so many descriptions that I saw her last night. She was standing at the end of my hospital hallway, dripping. She started lifting her head." His notes ended there, timestamped 3:07 a.m. Now, in the circles that still quietly track these events, the warning has changed again. If you see her in your dreams, she has already found you. If she lifts her head, do not look into her darkness. If you do, she will show you what's inside, and you will not wake up. They say the photograph is no longer just a cursed file. It has become a living darkness, traveling through screens, stories, memories, and dreams, patient, unstoppable, waiting for each of us to close our eyes. Because she knows, sooner or later, we all dream. A former emergency dispatcher anonymously shared an incident tied to the photograph in a closed support group for first responders. One night, around 3:07 a.m., they received a silent 911 call. The only sound was water dripping and something faint in the background, like a child whispering, "Mommy," again and again, softer each time. The line disconnected. The address traced back to an old apartment where a young man lived alone. When police performed a welfare check, they found the front door unlocked. The apartment was cold, the air thick with the scent of rotting flowers. Wet footprints led from the living room to the bedroom. They found the young man sitting on the floor, back against the bed, eyes open, unblinking. In his lap was a printed copy of the photo, soaked and sticking to his hands as if it had come out of water moments before. His face was frozen in horror, mouth slightly open as if he had tried to scream. On the wall opposite him was a mirror, fogged over, but in the condensation, a small handprint remained, slowly dripping down. The dispatcher said that after taking that call, they began waking up at 3:07 a.m., gasping for breath, the smell of rotting flowers thick in the room. At first, it was once a week, then every night. On the last message they posted before deleting their account, they wrote, "I saw her in the corner of my room. She was dripping, head down, standing on the wet footprints that appeared on my floor. I tried to look away, but I couldn't. She lifted her head. I saw what's inside the darkness. It's not empty." Others who read this message in the group reported having the same dream that night. A long, dark hallway filled with ankle-deep, cold water. The heavy smell of rotting flowers pressing down on their lungs. The girl, standing at the end of the hallway, dripping, head down. And in the dream, she begins to lift her head, the darkness rolling back, revealing something moving inside, shapes, eyes, endless reflections. Those who woke up did so at 3:07 a.m., often with tears streaming down their faces, unable to shake the image of what they had seen. Some didn't wake up. Now, the final warnings circulating in the few hidden forums left discussing the photograph are these. If you have seen the image, she will visit you in your dreams. If she lifts her head, close your eyes immediately. If you see what's under the darkness, she will take you. They say the darkness under her face is a mirror of yourself, and once you see yourself inside it, there is no coming back. They say the photograph is not a file anymore. It is a door. And when you see her, she sees you, too. When you hear her whisper, she is already in the room. When you smell the flowers, she is standing behind you. When you close your eyes, she is waiting. And at 3:07 a.m., she lifts her head. After reports of shared dreams began circulating, a small group of researchers attempted a sleep study on the photograph. They recruited volunteers who had never seen the image, planning to project the photo for 10 seconds before bed, then monitor brain activity and dreams overnight. They documented everything. The first night, the volunteers described a faint scent of rotting flowers while falling asleep. A cold, damp sensation on their feet during dreams. Waking up exactly at 3:07 a.m., disoriented, heart racing. On the third night, all volunteers reported the same dream independently. They stood in a dark hallway filled with ankle-deep water, hearing water drip in the silence. At the end of the hallway, she was there, small, soaked, head down, holding crushed flowers that dripped dark water. They described feeling a pressure in their chest as she slowly started to lift her head, the darkness pulling away like thick smoke. Some described seeing faint reflections or eyes moving inside the darkness. The lead researcher noted in the logs, "Even I, who have never seen the photograph directly, saw her in my dreams last night. She was closer. She lifted her head." On the fourth night, one volunteer failed to wake up at all. The monitoring equipment showed increased brain activity at 3:07 a.m., followed by a sudden, complete stop. When they entered the room, the air was heavy with the scent of rotting flowers. A wet footprint was found near the bed, and on the pillow, a single crushed flower lay dripping dark water. The equipment had captured a final spike of audio at 3:07 a.m., a soft, trembling whisper. "Mommy." After this, the study was immediately shut down, equipment destroyed, files erased. But those who had participated began reporting escalating visitations. The scent growing stronger at night. Wet footprints appearing on their floors without explanation. Seeing her reflection in dark windows, head down, standing just behind them. Feeling something cold brush their feet as they lay in bed, too afraid to move. And always, the dreams, the hallway, her lifting her head, the darkness inside. Now, the few who document the photograph agree. It does not need your permission to enter your dreams once you have heard about it, seen it, or even imagined it vividly. It travels through fear, memory, and curiosity. The darkness under her lifted head is alive, and once you see it, it sees you too. They say the photograph is not an image. It is a threshold. And if you smell the flowers tonight, wake at 3:07 a.m., and feel the air heavy around you, do not open your eyes. Because if she is standing there, lifting her head, and you look, it will be the last thing you ever see. The last person to document the photograph in detail was an anonymous investigator who had spent years collecting every case, every whisper, every unexplained death tied to it. Eventually, he decided he had to see it for himself, to end the rumors or to end the curse. He found himself standing inside the abandoned house where the photograph was first discovered. In his final audio log, he described, "The air is cold, thick with the scent of rotting flowers, heavy enough to taste. I can hear water dripping somewhere in the dark, and footsteps, soft, wet footsteps that are not mine." He found it in the basement. A single, damp, black and white photograph. The children stood there as described, a girl in a black dress, head down, the void where her face should be, the boy beside her, glassy-eyed, clutching wilted flowers. He tried to burn the photograph, but his hands would not let go. At exactly 3:07 a.m., the darkness in the room thickened, pressing against him, and for the first time, she began to lift her head. In his final recording, he said, "My body is frozen. She's lifting her head so slowly, and the darkness on her face is not just a shadow. It's alive. There are eyes inside it, watching me, reaching for me. I can feel it pulling at me. If I look, I know I will never look away again." But he looked away. The photograph fell to the floor, wet and cold, and the darkness retreated. The scent faded, the room went quiet, and he was alone again. His last written note was found. "I saw her, but I didn't let her take me. I didn't see what was inside the darkness, so she couldn't pull me in. But now, every time I close my eyes, she is there, waiting." For anyone reading this, do not seek out the photograph. Do not share it with others. If you see her in your dreams, keep your eyes closed. If you smell the flowers at night, do not move. If she lifts her head, do not look into the darkness. Because when I opened my eyes too soon, I heard her final whisper in the dark. Now you see through my eyes. And so this story ends. The photograph is no longer just a file. It is no longer just a curse. It is a living darkness waiting for your eyes, your fear, your curiosity. Do not look for it. Do not let it find you. Because if you ever see her lift her head, and you look into what lies beneath that darkness, it will be the last thing you ever see.